Hello everyone, I have a mystery box today. I did not expect to get this in the mail. I sort of don't even know who it's from, but I have my suspicions. And yeah, I usually keep track of what I'm expecting to get in the mail, and I was only expecting like one thing this week, which was a box from a guy in Japan. But so yeah, I came home and this was like right there on my porch, and I was like, what the heck? I didn't order anything, and it's kind of a heavy box too. It's like, I would say it's just a little under 20 pounds, so it's got something valuable in there. I don't know, kind of shaking it a little. But anyways, we're going to find out together what this is. Again, I don't know what this is. I didn't order it. I haven't gotten an email telling me that I should be receiving something like this. And but I'm pretty sure it's probably something for me to review. So, as you guys know, I believe in full disclosure, and I'm telling you this just so you know, there's no backroom deal or anything. This is just what happened. I wish there was a better story to go with this, but no, I just got it, and so now I'm going to find out what it is. But yeah, because I know that some people are going to be like, oh, why are you doing sponsored deals and you're not disclosing it? Well, there's nothing to disclose because there is no deal. I didn't take any agreement. I have no clue what's in here. But also, for whatever I review that's in here, right now I'm cutting it with an X-Acto knife, the tape and everything. Right now with this, I did not pay for it, whatever it is in here. I did not pay for it, so just make sure to keep that in mind. If I review it, some of you might say I'm biased, but I'm going to try to be unbiased, and as I always am, regardless of whether I get this for free or not. So hopefully I could do that, but you guys can tell me. But either way, I did not pay for this, so just make sure to keep that in mind. But also, there is no deal. I don't have any agreement to do a positive review or anything. Alright, first thing out of the box. What is it? Bubble wrap. Oh, very good. I like this kind of bubble wrap. Nah, okay, what's next? I feel something good. Ooh! Gamerz Tek, I knew it! Okay, so here's what I saw. On the return address, it's Fallout Games over in Arizona, which I think is where the whole Gamerz Tek operation is run from. And, okay, cool. So I got this Gamerz Tek, goes to a regular Genesis plug. Cool! Oh god, this feels really nice. This feels way better than the other ones that I'm used to dealing with. This feels really good. Okay, we're going to get to this later, but let's look at what else is in here. This is S-Video cable? Genesis cable? I don't know, something like that. Cables. More cables. What else is in here? Ooh! Famicom-ish type of controller. Oh, wow, it goes to USB. So awesome. Oh, I love the Famicom style. I do have a Famicom, a real one. And, focus. Focus, camera. Yeah, it's not cooperating. There we go. Alright, so, yeah, but the Famicom is just a sexy device. And you can tell this isn't a sticker. This is actually, like, metal-y stuff. So, that looks like it's going to be pretty cool. And then the rest of it is a big box. What is it? This is going to be probably the centerpiece of it. Let's see. Let's see. What? Another SNES? Alright, I did get a comment in, I saw it just recently a few days ago. I haven't even had a chance to respond to it. But Zed from Gamerz Tek, that's the reason why I thought, hey, this is probably from, you know, the Gamerz Tek guys. Zed got back to me, and he told me that he heard about my complaints with the SNES controllers on this, that it really just does not feel like a SNES controller. In fact, I think I even said that that's the weak point of the console. Except I also had some problems with Super Game Boy support. I don't know, the audio was a little weird. It was really kind of muffled, if I remember it correctly. I don't know. But either way, I think that the weak point of this console was the controllers, because they just don't feel like original stuff. They work, but they just don't feel right. They're a little stiff. They're not as bouncy as Nintendo original stuff. It just didn't feel right. But, which was really out of character for them, because, again, the NES controller, they have perfected it. Even this one, I can tell it is the one that is like the better hardware. I would hope it would be. And also it has this little thing right here on the cable, which kind of gives you that impression. And so this is their layer design, and their layer design is perfect. These are perfect. Absolutely perfect replacements for original Nintendo stuff, because they feel exactly the same. So that was really out of character for them to have SNES pads which just don't really feel right, especially when a company like, what is that? Retrobit, the people who make the Super Retro Trio, that Super NES pad is perfect. That one is absolutely perfect. So let's stop jibber jabbering and open this up and see if they made those improvements to the controller, because Zed told me that he did. So let's see. Come on. Alrighty. Very cool. We've already seen this before. I'm going to test this again just to see if they maybe improved on the, what is it, the Super Game Boy stuff. But I'm not holding out hope for that. He never said that he did, so it'll just be interesting to see. And let's see. Oh, hey! There we go! Zed, that's what I'm talking about. Hell yeah! Okay, this feels good. Alright, and another thing that they improved, I remember the start and select on the old model, they were plastic, like hard plastic. So that also, it's a little pedantic, but us gamers were the most pedantic, picky motherfuckers on the planet. And, anyways though, but these ones, they are rubber, so that feels really nice. And the buttons, they feel great. Oh god, I can't wait to test this out. And the D-pad, it also feels pretty nice. You see it doesn't bottom out. I've got all my pressure, my thumb pressure on the D-pad right here on the center, and I could still choose different directions. That's great. Oh god. Yeah, this feels solid. It feels solid because even the Super Retro Trio controllers, I actually broke one already. I think I just dropped down the ground one too many times when, you know, I was putting away the console. But yeah, I broke it. The inside screw points like came loose, so the thing like would always come apart, and then I couldn't like make good contact on the buttons. So I'm down one controller on that, but this one feels good. This could be a good replacement, but still I want to try it out on this. And I just saw something else in here. What is this? Wait, what? Okay. There's nothing written on it. Caution. Okay, this, not only do we have a mystery box, we have a mystery cart. I don't know what the hell this thing is. What else is in here? Okay, power brick. Power brick feels a little heavy. I think if I remember correctly, the other one was heavy too when we first got it. Oh god, these controllers, they feel great. They've made some improvement already, but I'm going to see if it works on the console itself too. Yeah, that's it. Nothing else in the box. Let me just make sure. Yeah, nothing else is in there. And there you go, guys. Like I said, I mean, there is no deal going on. He didn't even include a letter or anything telling me, like, hey, make sure to review this stuff. He just knows that if you send something to me, I'm gonna fucking review it. And, yeah, this is really the only thing that it comes with, just this regular thank you for your purchase, you know, little instruction stuff. Alright, we gotta take a look at this. I hope that they made some improvements. I can already tell that they improved the controllers. And then we're gonna find out what the hell is this. Does it even work on a NES or a SNES? I don't know. We're gonna find out. Alright, we're already off to a bad start. Wonderful. I tried out that mystery cartridge, and yes, it does work on an NES, and it is some sort of multi-cart, but the damn thing doesn't work. It will bring you to the game selection screen, but anytime that I try to choose something, it just resets the cartridge. And I've tried everything. I hit every button, and I mean, it works on the NES, so I tried all 4 buttons in all 4 directions, but nothing seems to matter. Just by looking at the tiles though, I'm pretty sure this is like a Chinese bootleg multi-cart. It doesn't look like something that Gamerz Tek would sell, so I figured that they just kinda looked at my channel and realized that I like obscure Chinese crapware, and then they had this lying around so they just decided to throw it in. I wish I could play it, but it just won't work. I don't know, maybe something happened during shipping, but it just doesn't work, so we're moving on. Alright guys, I'm back, and I've got a whole mess of controllers and wires over here at my feet. I'm probably gonna trip and kill myself. But before I do that, let's talk about the Gamerz Tek 16-bit Super NES clone. Now, let's talk about the console itself. I was not expecting any improvements since we saw it last time, and so it really just has the same problems that it had back then. They're really just identical. Again, I didn't expect any improvements, but just defer to my old video if you want to know how that one did. Really, the sound is just coming in a little bit too hot still, so not only is it a little bit too loud, and you would think that that would be, you know, easy enough to correct, you just lower the volume. But it's actually not that easy, because since it's a little bit louder than it should be, it's hard to find the good zone where, you know, it's not too loud and not too quiet. So in other words, when you're messing with the volume, the actual volume ticker is a little bit more sensitive than you would expect it to be. But otherwise, it is still serviceable, and like I said before, the signal is extremely clean. It is one of the cleanest clone system signals I've ever seen. It really is amazing. But yeah, so that's a really good strong suit. But of course, the weakest part of the console is the Super Game Boy support. The Super Game Boy games, they just don't really work well. As far as gameplay-wise, they're okay, but the sound is just horrible. It's way too loud, it's overmodulated, it's just not very good. But I'm not sure if that's really something that I should hold against it that much, because, I don't know, just from reading the comments on other forums and whatnot, I've been noticing that a lot of people, they don't like the Super Game Boy as much as I do. I think they just don't like the color palette that the Super Game Boy puts out, and so I don't know if that's a deal killer for you, then this clone console probably isn't for you. But if you're like most of the retro community, as I think I've seen, then Super Game Boy compatibility probably won't mean a lot to you, and therefore you shouldn't really see that as, a deal killer. But otherwise, I think I did say in the last review, I actually didn't review it, I should have, but I think I said that I would recommend the console as long as you use original controllers, because the controllers that came bundled with it were not working. I mean, they did work, but they just didn't work well. It didn't feel right. And it didn't feel like original Super NES stuff. This one, though, it is just incredible. It really does feel like the real thing. So, let me show you the real thing right here. And as you can see, the proportions are all right. So, I mean, it uses all the correct materials, like the rubber right here instead of the hard plastic. The shoulder buttons, they feel decent. They feel exactly the same, actually. And the D-pad, I gotta say, it feels just fine as well. A lot of people, they were always telling me with that old Gamerz Tek Super NES review, they're like, "Oh, what are you talking about? It looks fine. You just don't know what a new Super NES pad feels like out of the box." Well, no, I do know what it feels like. I mean, I've been retro gaming for, over 10 years, and plus I had played these, when I was a kid. So I know what a Super NES pad is supposed to feel like, and those first controllers we looked at with the first unit, they were not Super NES pads. They did not feel like it at all. The buttons were too tall, they were too stiff, the D-pad was too stiff also, so it just didn't work. But with these ones, though, even the buttons, they feel alright, they feel great, especially the A and B. But I do have to complain about the Y and X, because for some reason, I don't know if you guys can see it. Let me see if... I think we could see it right here, because look, okay, I'm holding them together right here, parallel with each other, and I don't know if you guys can notice it, but on the real Super NES pad, the buttons sit a little bit higher. So maybe they're having the opposite problem now, that the buttons are staying too low. And not only that, but when you push the buttons, you see, like on the real Super NES, I push the button and it doesn't go in all the way. It stops itself right there. With these ones, though, I push it and it sinks like right into the controller. So that doesn't feel like a real Super NES pad, but considering the old controllers and how much of a mess that was, I gotta say this is a tenfold improvement. It feels right. So it might feel a little bit different, but it is absolutely a pad that you can use every day. So I gotta say that they made a really big improvement with this, and like I said in that review, that I would recommend it, except to use the original controllers. Now I could say with that console, I 100% recommend it. Use the controllers that come with it, as long as they're the updated controllers like this. It's not something that I would have bought, because I already have a real Super NES and the Super Retro Trio. Basically, I have all my bases covered, but for people who don't, people who want a cheaper option for a Super NES clone for playing Super NES games, that might be a cheaper option than getting the real hardware, and I think it's going to deliver just the same results pretty much. But anyways, let's move on. So next, we have the Gamerz Tek 6-button Genesis controller. Now, one of the things I have to say, though, is that Genesis is something that I'm not entirely familiar with. It's a little handicap for me because I didn't grow up with one, and also I'm not really a big collector of Genesis games. So I do have a few games I like. There are definitely some games like, Subterranea that I think are just fantastic and I love. But I'm not really 100% familiar with Genesis hardware, so I'm just not really the biggest Sega fan. And because of that, I'm kind of at a disadvantage, but this is obviously a Sega 6-button controller, and I gotta say, it feels great. It just seats right in the palm of your hands. It just feels so good. And the buttons, they feel right as well. One of the things I never liked about Sega buttons, though, is that you press it down with a thunk. It's just thunk, thunk, thunk. Whereas, like a Nintendo or an NES, I won't worry about the controller. But even like the Super NES controller, it has like these light taps that you could do to it. But with Genesis, it's always this heavy thunk of each button press. And that also goes for the D-pad. I'm not a big fan of the shield type D-pad, as I think they call these. And but otherwise, it feels just like Sega hardware. It really does. And in fact, usually with a clone system, you would get this. You would get a little 6-button controller that looks like this. And as you can see, they're a little bit shorter. So as you can see right here, you know what? It's a better comparison if I do it this way. There you go. As you can see, it's almost like the handles are longer, but the actual face buttons and everything, they still correspond. However, and you know what, I don't even know where I got this clone controller. I think it was probably, God, it must have been on AliExpress for like $3 or something way back when. And as you can see, the buttons, they're actually not very good on this. This isn't a controller that I would recommend. The buttons, they sit way too high. Look at this. Look at this right here. Look at this button. What's going on here? This is like it's like a tooth. Look how deep it goes. But and then as far as these ones, they're just great. They sit just normally, at least from what I can tell. I don't think I have a real Sega 6-button controller. I do have the Genesis one, which I heard is terrible, which I kind of have to agree that it's not the best controller, the North American Sega Saturn controller. But with this, I think from what I've been able to see, I did a quick Google image search, and I think that this is pretty much the dimensions, including the longer, grip right here. I think this is what the original Sega 6-button controller was like. And I can't say if it is or not. Like I said, I'm not familiar with Sega stuff as much as I am with Nintendo or other systems. But I gotta say, this all around is just a great controller, so I would recommend it. And of course, the output, though, it does not go USB. It goes to, just regular 9-pin. So you can only use this with Genesis, or if you're like me and you have the Super Retro Trio, I was able to use it on that, and it works perfectly. So I would say that this is something that I could recommend. If you're looking for something like this, this is a great option right here. But let's move on. Alright, and now we move on to the hybrid Famicom NES controller thingy. So yeah, unlike the other two that we just looked at, this one was not based on, original hardware that came out. Unless you're talking about just, the bare bones of, it being an NES controller clone. So yeah, but Nintendo never made one that had, the red for Famicom and then the gold plate right here. So this is pretty unique, and I gotta say that it looks sharp. I really like it. So it is a different take on that. Of course, if you're a purist and you really want one that looks just like the NES controller that you grew up with, then this probably isn't the one for you. But for me, I think it does look unique and I like it. So otherwise, as far as the controls go, it just feels great. I mean, it is really just a clone of the old NES controller, and it works brilliantly. I mean, the buttons, like I said, it has that Nintendo bouncy feel right there. It's not that Sega thunk. And yeah, the D-pad feels great. I mean, it is a proper D-pad, so that feels great. Really, this just feels just like an old NES pad. And as far as using it, though, of course, this one, it goes to a USB. So this is good for emulators. And so I did go ahead and try it on a few emulators. I was just thinking, like, what are some of the systems that use basically 2 buttons and a D-pad? So I tried, of course, NES. I tried Game Boy, Game Gear, Master System, even SG-1000, the old Sega system that only released in Japan, and that predates the Master System, of course, and also TurboGrafx 16. And so I tried all those, and they all work flawlessly. It is just a great controller to use for those. And usually in the emulators, it is, and I can tell you with all those emulators I tried, it just was the easiest thing to set up in the world. I mean, really, you just go down to configure or tools, and or input or something, and you find the little setting to configure the controller, and then it'll bring you to a screen that tells you, okay, tell me what up is, what down is, left, right, BA, start, select. And so really you just input those, and that's it. And then it knows your controller, and it works perfectly, absolutely perfectly with emulators. In fact, this actually got me into playing a couple games on emulator that I've been wanting to play, and I just haven't really gotten around to it yet. Like, for instance, I played, Hero on the SG-1000. I always heard about the port of Hero to SG-1000, and I gotta say, that is a really good port right there of that game. And with this controller, with, this perfect D-pad, perfect buttons, I gotta tell you, I think that that is the definitive way of playing Hero now. I have always been one that defends the original Atari 2600 version of the game, but with that SG-1000 port, I gotta say that is an incredibly good port, and again, with this controller, I've been playing for hours. I'm not kidding you, for hours playing that game. And in fact, you know what, let me see if you can tell. I don't know if you can tell on my thumbs, but with this one, there's a little bit of redness over here at the joint, and that's because I'm already getting NES callus, as I like to call it. Any kid from that era can tell you the NES controller, it's like diamond hard right here on all the corners and everything. So yeah, you just have your thumb on there all day, and then it's just going to chew it all up. So I'm already getting that, and I got a feeling that maybe with the NES Classic re-release that's coming out later this year, I got a feeling that there's going to be people complaining about that. Mark my words. On social media, you're going to see people complain about NES callus, affecting them on their thumb. But, yeah, so other than that, what you would expect with, an NES controller, I gotta say this is just great. I would recommend it. And one of the things I gotta say, though, is just be careful with it when you're getting it, because, of course, I think this is going to be obvious for anybody who's getting this, but you're not going to be able to play a lot of modern games with this. So, like, for instance, I went through my Steam library to try to find any games that would work with it, and I was actually able to get Super Meat Boy to work with this, just out of the box, but the only problem is that the B and A buttons were reversed, so that felt a little awkward. But otherwise, yeah, there are some games that will work with this, and but it's not going to be as many as like what you would get with an Xbox 360 controller, duh. If you want to play modern indie games, with a controller, and you only want one controller, I would say definitely get the Xbox 360 controller. But if you want to play some classic games and you want it to feel really good and really familiar, and a callback to your youth, and I would say even the best way of playing them, just with the perfect D-pad, I would say, and then with just regular buttons, then this is a great way to play it. And in fact, I'm not sure if it even works with it, but I will find a way to get it to work if it doesn't. But I do not have Shovel Knight yet because I'm a cheap bastard and I'm going to wait for a good sale, so I don't have Shovel Knight yet, and plus I have a huge backlog that I need to get to. So, but once I get to Shovel Knight, once I actually do get the game, I am going to play it with this. Definitely I'm going to play it with this. And, yeah, I'm going to play with this. Zed, you're not getting this controller back. In fact, there, I licked it. It's mine. You're not getting it back, dude. And, yeah, so I just can't recommend this controller enough. And in fact, with this one and with this, I was like, you know what? As you guys know, Zed didn't send me anything. He didn't send me an email. He didn't include a letter with that box. I don't know how much these things even cost. So I was like, you know what? If I want to make a good episode, I'm going to have to go online and then figure out what they cost so I could say, hey, this is a great controller. And if you want it, you could get it for X amount of dollars. Well, guess what? These two controllers are not listed. So I think these are pre-production. I don't think these are even for sale yet. Which I didn't know when I unboxed it. I was like, what the hell? And so I don't even think these are for sale to the public yet. But I did see that like they do make the USB version of this controller, but for the original NES variant, with red buttons and the black background and everything and the gray plastic. So they do make that one. I think it goes for like $12. And I gotta say, for $12, I mean, an Xbox 360 controller goes for what, $30 or $40 or something. And but for an old retro controller, if you really just want to play like those old retro games, with those systems I just mentioned, I gotta say this is a great way to do it. And for $12, that's nothing. I mean, go ahead and get it. So I gotta say, some of you are gonna say, "Oh, you're shilling. $12, that's a terrible price." When you could go on Alibaba and get one for like $4. No, not at all. Because let me show you what you can get on Alibaba. This is typically the crap that they give you on Alibaba. You know what? I think there we go. Just need to adjust the camera. Yeah, this is usually the crap that you get, on those Chinese websites. And let me show you how bad these are. This pretty much has all the faults of the old Gamerz Tek NES, except for the D-pad. Look how bad the D-pad is compared to this. Look at that. So look, the D-pad's all thick, and look, it bottoms out like in 2 seconds. And then look at this one. Again, this is the Gamerz Tek one. And look, the D-pad, it feels great. It doesn't bottom out. Look at this. Look at this. I'm putting pressure on the middle, and I can still move it in all directions. Now let's take a look at this one. And by the way, I think I got this controller way back in the day for like $1 somewhere. But look, you pressure on the button on the bottom, and look, I can't move it anywhere. I can't move it anywhere. It's going nowhere, guys. But yeah, and then also the buttons are too tall. Look at this. Buttons are too tall. They just don't feel right at all. And look, again, the thunk. The thunk and the tap. Thunk, tap, huh? You see that? Yeah, so don't trust a lot of things that you get online, but I'm really glad the Gamerz Tek is making this kind of stuff. And like I said, I don't think these 2 controllers are out, but I highly recommend them, especially with the Sega one. Again, I don't have an original Sega 6-button controller, the one that was released like this with the longer grip, but it feels great. It feels just great. And you know what, there is, Zed's going to hate this, there is one little nitpicky thing that I have to talk about on this controller that I totally forgot about, but it's a big one. So, anyways, I did notice that I do have a little bit of a design flaw, I think, maybe a manufacturing flaw in mine. Because, check this out, if I put, on the A button right here, if I put a lot of pressure on there and then do a little diagonal thing, watch this. Boom, the little thing got stuck. See that? Let's try it again. Look at that, every time it will happen. But again, that's only if I put a lot of pressure on it. Well, not a lot of pressure, just enough to push it down and diagonal. And then it will get stuck, because get this. Let's see if we can zoom in on that, focus in, I mean. But I don't know if you guys will be able to see it, but it seems like there's a little bit too much plastic right there on that edge. I think if I took this apart and just filed it down with like a nail file or something, then that would completely remove the problem. But that is a little nitpick that I gotta tell you guys about, and I have to be honest with you guys. So that is something that you guys have to be careful with. And so I hope that this is just a little flaw with mine. I hope it's just a little manufacturing bug and it doesn't affect anybody else. But that is something that I just gotta give a little heads up about, that can happen. But again, in just regular gameplay, I was just doing this and it'll never get stuck, you see. It'll never get stuck unless you do that, which isn't a very common move that I make, but whatever. If it does happen, this is going to piss you off. The first time it happened was when I was playing a Tails game for the Game Gear, and then Tails was stuck in like flying mode, and I was like, what the hell, why is he stuck? And yeah, it turns out that the button itself got stuck right there. But I guess it's good that it happens on the outside rather than the inside, where I wouldn't be able to fix it. But otherwise, it's a good controller. All of these are great controllers, and I can't recommend them enough. But yeah, and just to close off this video, again, this is not sponsored content. There is not a sponsored deal behind this. I wish there was a more exciting story than I just got these in the mail, but I'm sorry, that is the story. I just got these in the mail. I'm not getting paid for this. This content is not getting reviewed. Zed is not getting these back, no matter how hard he begs. So, yeah, these are just my own opinions. And if you guys want to say that, my opinions are biased because I got them for free, I mean, go ahead. But I think that I've accurately represented these controllers, and I will say that it's my honest opinion that I think that they are worth getting. So again, and especially that Sega, not Sega, Jesus Christ, I'm screwing up. That Super NES clone, I think that it's totally corrected now that it has the right controller on there. So apparently this company does listen, and apparently they have great support too. So even if you did get one of these with the wonky little button right there, I think that would take care of you. But that's all the time that we have for today. This is going way too long. I will see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.